Okay, so I would like to call the name of the company. It's Jebbit, right?
Correct.
Awesome. So let's jump into the interview, right?
Let's do it.
Awesome. So what is Jebbit, and how did you came up with the idea and the name?
Yeah, Jebbit is a platform that helps marketers collect more first party data on their customers. So we're getting consumers to answer questions about their interests and preferences and all the type of data brands want. But what's unique about Jebbit is we do it in a way that doesn't feel like a survey to the consumer. So we're a content platform. If you've ever used like a Canva or a Photoshop, you can think of something similar where a marketer can log in and they have all these different templates, and without touching a line of code, they can build these different types of interactive experiences that will get people to, in like a fun and engaging way, answer questions about themselves. I think the most common example would be if you've ever been on a website, let's say it's an e-commerce website, and you come across a quiz where it says, hey, answer 5 questions and we'll recommend the right product for you. Those are the
Right.
types of experiences that brands are building on Jebbit. So for the brand, they provide a better shopping experience and they get all this first party data. And to the consumer, they get time saved, they get a recommendation, they have a more enjoyable experience. And then obviously the brand can use that data later for better marketing. So that's just like a little bit about Jebbit and who we are. I started the company 12 years ago now when I was in college. And that, what I just described to you, was not our first product. Our very first product was a website that paid college students cash to answer questions about brands. And it was called Add It Up because you'd like watch ads and answer questions and all your money would add up at the same time. But Bank of America has that name trademarked. So our lawyers let us know we had to come up with a new name. And at the time, we weren't smart enough to just pay students through like PayPal or anything digital. So we were actually talking to banks about a partnership where they would have an added up like debit card
Right.
on our platform. And my mom actually named the company. We were brainstorming a new name, and she said, "What if you named the company Jebbit and you gave people Jebbit cards instead of debit cards?" Because my college roommate's name was Jeb, and so he was an original founder of the business. He was helping me come up with the name one day, so it was named partly after Jeb and partly after debit cards. And yeah, that's where the name came from. It means nothing, but it's simple and people remember it.
Awesome. Awesome. It's a fun story. So you pivoted the idea a little bit, right?
Yeah, I would say we had like 2 or 3 significant pivots. I mean, that's true with a lot of startups. But what we're doing now with helping brands capture first party data, that's really been the focus since about 2017. So really the last 6 or 7 years or so.
Awesome. Awesome. So I'd like to ask you, like, can you name some of those company that using Jbit, like big companies, let's say.
Yeah, so we have customers of all sizes. We have everything from a free version that you can download through Shopify. So you could be, 2 guys in a garage starting a company, all the way up to Fortune 500 companies that spend millions of dollars a year on the platform. Your question about the big companies, it's a lot of like the big consumer brands that a lot of us shop with and engage with. Sports leagues like the NFL and the NBA, CPG brands like L'Oreal or Procter and Gamble or people like that, e-commerce brands like ASICS and retail brands. So there's a wide variety of the types of verticals that use Jebbit. But really, any business who's trying to better connect with and engage their customers and learn more about them and not just put out boring surveys all the time, which really should be all businesses, but we'll work with any type of them. Generally speaking, we do work more though with B2C companies than B2B companies, although it's maybe 5% of our revenue is with B2B companies.
Oh, that's great. So can you give an idea about how much money you guys raised so far?
We've raised a little under $100 million. About 2 years ago now, we did a $70 million raise with Vista, the private equity fund. So that's definitely the bulk of it. That's 70% of all the money that we've raised. But yeah, the first round was our 500K seed round in 2013 when I was a senior in college. So it's been everything from that up to the much larger raise 2 years ago.
Oh, okay. So altogether, I would say like around 93, 94K, something like
Yeah,
that.
correct. Yep,
Okay, okay, okay. And Vista was the last venture capital. I mean, they're private equity. Yeah, they
correct,
always invest in SaaS companies. Yeah, they're very
correct.
focused on SaaS. Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, uh, so I would like to ask you a different question. So, how large the addressable market over here we are talking about?
Well, it's really interesting because one of the things with Jebbit is like, how do you want to define the market? We kind of play in so many different markets. I think if you were trying to look at an established market that Jebbit is in, I would probably look at like the CX market. You
Mm-hmm.
know, all of the survey companies, the Qualtrics and Medallias and the Survey Monkeys. And I think you could look at that addressable market and say, you know, all of those businesses paying for survey software, you know, can see value in the Jebbit experience and using Jebbit. But also, when you look at what brands are actually building on Jebbit, a lot of it doesn't feel like a survey, right? When I talked to you about that product match quiz, that is a beautiful experience embedded on your site. It's connected to your whole product catalog. It's recommending products to people. It's part of the shopping experience, and that's kind of a newer and up and coming market. And I don't even know exact. We are still trying to figure out. You know, we're talking to the Foresters and Gartners of the world of trying to figure out, you know, what do we even call it?
Right,
You know, Forrester has put a stake in the ground on the term zero party data, which for them is really just the first party data that people willingly give you. So, not to go down like a boring rabbit hole that your listeners might not be interested in, I'll try to
right,
keep it
right,
short. But like
right.
within first party, there's all the behavioral and transactional data, right? We look at what people click on your website, we look at what they've bought from you, and that's passive. You watch what people do, and then you make inferences off that data. You know, I see you bought a new scarf, and now I make inferences about what that means about you.
Mm-hmm.
The zero party data, as Forrester's defining it, or we often refer to as first party declared data, is the data that people willingly give you. And so, you know, you do a quiz or you do take a survey or fill out a form, but you willingly and consciously, with your consent, give the data to a brand. And so, you know, I don't know. To answer your market size, I've talked for a long time without giving you a number and actually answer your question, but I'd say probably combine the CX market with what Forrester is now defining as the zero party data market, and you've probably at least circled, you know, the general markets that we're going after.
It's big. It's big. We don't want to come
It's
up with
big.
a
Big is the answer.
yeah. We
Yes.
don't
Yeah.
want to come up with any answer. So there's a very fun interview from McKinsey or Bain. They asked like how many mattresses are there in the United States, and it's
Yeah.
not the answer. It's basically how you answer the question. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like they want to see how you approach to the question. It's
Yeah.
like okay, how many people live in the United States? How many families, babies, whatever,
Yeah.
whatever. They just want to see how you
How many
approach.
bedrooms in the house? How many people have a
Right,
second house
right,
or a third house? Yeah,
right. So this
exactly.
is how they come up, and then hotels and stuff like that.
Hotels, yeah. Airbnbs, yeah.
There's
All
no
of it.
right
Yeah.
answer. Awesome.
Hospitals, yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
So I'll try to I'll just try to shift gear a very little bit. So it's could you share a plan about Jibbit? Like, what's Jibbit's future plan right now?
Yeah, so I mean, we raised this round a little under 2 years ago from Vista, and I mean, I think both my management team and Vista were pretty aligned that, you know, even though Jebbit's been around since 2011 or 12, depending on where you want to start it, like this market of brands trying to proactively go capture first and zero party data is really just starting to emerge recently, and a lot of that's been driven by privacy legislation, things like GDPR and CCPA, and you know, cookie third party cookies going away. And so really, like, I think this might be a generic answer that many software execs might give you, but it was raise money so we can go hire more people, right? I mean, we're a SaaS company, so it's grow the engineering team so we can build more product, you know, grow the sales and marketing team so we can go reach more brands. But so we're just in a very like heads down space of growing. I can say just like as an entrepreneur who pivoted the business multiple times in the first 5 or 6 years of running this. It's been really exciting to, for the last like 6 or 7 years, just feel like, okay, we have a consistent vision that hasn't changed. We have product market fit. You know, we feel like we're leaders in the space. We've got some of the biggest brands in the world using the platform and seeing a lot of value out of it. And so, in recent years, we've kind of shifted from that you're scrambling to find product market fit mode to now you're just in execution and scaling mode. And it's definitely a whole different, I'm giving you a longer answer than you asked for, but it's definitely a whole different need of like, who do you need on the team? What type of executives do you need? What type of things are you focusing on your exec meetings recently? But I think we viewed Vista as a partner who, you said this earlier, like they only invest in enterprise SaaS. And I think that appealed to us of me and my co-founders are all first-time entrepreneurs. We started this in college. We brought on more seasoned execs, but I think we all felt like we could learn a lot from the Vista team in like the operational playbook of how do you scale a SaaS company now that you have a lot of the foundational product market fit elements.
Right. Even though you didn't answer one of my question, you just
Which
touched
one
on the
didn't I
question.
answer?
So it's
Say it again.
basically give me some big names. But I did my due
No,
diligence.
I said that of
Okay.
customers.
Okay.
I gave you some of those.
Yeah. So one of the big customer, I'm not gonna name, but they're a very big pizza company. How I know it? One of my
Yeah,
friend, he works for that company, and I was
yeah,
talking like, hey, I have a meeting with this dude. His name is Tom. He's pretty smart, and he's like, oh, okay, that's cool. And asked like, oh, this is the name of the company. Have you ever heard of it? He's like, yo, man, we use that. I'm like, why do you
good.
guys use that? And then he just answered that, okay, this is how we use it. I'm like, wow, that must be very useful though, right?
Hopefully, did he tell you how he's using it? What
Yeah,
did he
he
tell
he
you?
he 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 told me that because I'm not very sure about this. How do you guys use that? But he explained me. It's some kind of survey and some
Yep,
questionnaires and stuff like that. I have
yep.
never used it, but he told me that it's pretty useful, and all of the company use that. So they're very big. They're in the stock market. They're a very big company. I just don't want to name the company, but that's a
I
very
know. I
renowned
lose
pizza
track
company.
of who we're allowed to talk about publicly and who we're not allowed to talk about publicly. But yeah, I'm glad that your friend is seeing value from the platform. So
Awesome, awesome, right. So I'll ask you some very light questions. So um, as a customer, right? So how they how they find value from Jebbits and why they use it rather than using any other third party company.
yeah, so there's kind of a couple ways to talk about that. Let's just stick with the use case of I'm an e-commerce brand and I want to build a quiz for my
Hmm.
website to drive sales because I think that's just like an easy one for everyone to understand. First and foremost, if you're a marketer, you have to make the decision of are we going to use a third party vendor like Jebbit to build this, or are we just going to pay our own engineering team or like our own agency to build it? And so, first and foremost, the value of Jebbit is that you can get the quiz built and live way faster and way cheaper in Jebbit than if you relied on your own engineers or an agency to build it from scratch. We've now had tens of thousands of quizzes built on the platform. It's all self serve. You just grab the template, input your colors, fonts, logos, upload your product catalog, set the logic. It all can be done in like an hour in the platform as opposed to weeks, sometimes months of waiting for your
Right,
engineering team to do it. And then once it's live, you can go edit it in the platform and just publish it. And like you could change the colors, change a question, click publish, and it'll update on your website rather than having to go back to your engineering team every time you want to make a change. So that's kind of like the first value prop is save time and money in building the quiz.
right,
And then, as I'm sure you could guess, a lot of our customers run dozens, if not hundreds, of these quizzes. So
right,
then you can extrapolate that cost and time savings times a lot. The next value prop, there's kind of two more I'll talk about. Once that quiz is live on your site, you're going to pretty instantaneously see a lift in both the conversion rate and the average order value because people have this better, more personalized shopping experience. So we're averaging across, we have this data through Shopify because we can see the purchases across the thousands of brands that use Jebbit on Shopify. We're averaging over a 30% lift in the average order value, meaning once people go through the quiz and you recommend products to them, they actually spend more money with your
right,
brand. So that's a very like quantifiable ROI of how much revenue you're driving. And then the last value prop I'll talk about is once a person goes through that quiz, they're normally going to answer 3, 4, 5 questions about themselves, about their interests, their preferences, why they're at your site. And so you can take that data from them answering the questions. We'll send that data from Jebbit into your platforms where you want that data, which might be like your CDP, your customer data platform, or it might be your email platform. Let's say you use like Klaviyo or MailChimp or Salesforce Marketing Cloud to send all your emails. We'll send all the data right into that platform, and now you can use that data to send more personalized emails, right? So if I'm on a golf website and I'm doing the quiz to find the right golf club for me, and I say I golf once a week just for fun versus I say I'm playing 3 times a week and I'm trying to win tournaments, that golf company might want to send me different emails in the future. And so that's kind of the like short, medium, and long-term value that clients get out of working with our platform.
So, how do you look at the safety of the consumer data?
It's a great question. So one of the things that we always have to clarify with brands when we're talking to them, we are just the platform to help them collect the data. We take no ownership rights over the data. So you asked about security. There's kind of two things to talk about, though. There's the ownership rights of the data, and then there's the security of the data. So we don't own any of the data. We don't monetize the data in any way. We don't sell it, anything like that. All the data goes to the brand. In fact, they can send it out of Jebbit into their systems, and then they can have Jebbit automatically delete it at whatever frequency they want out of Jebbit. And then from a security standpoint, as I'm sure you can guess, because we're handling really valuable data, we've just had to build out a whole security team internally as part of our engineering org to just make sure everything is safe. And so, as you could guess, we don't get to work with those Fortune 500 brands we work with unless we've gone through their rigorous, like, InfoSec compliance processes. We've gotten ourselves like SOC 2 compliant and many other acronyms of compliance that we have to do. And so that's been a good, investment from our engineering team, over the last 7 or 8 years.
Okay, that's cool. Um, okay, so some leadership question I would like to ask you because our viewers, mostly I would say co-founders of companies
Yeah.
and VCs, and it's gonna be on my newsletter too. So I would like to put some values for them, since we are talking here. So, what qualities do you believe are most important for a CEO or a leader?
I think to state the obvious with the CEO, the stage of the company drastically matters with how I would answer that question. But if we're going to focus more on the early days of a company, like going from an idea to scaling, raising venture money, finding product market fit, all of that, which is where I feel more confident in talking because I've never scaled a company to, thousands of employees. I've never run a public company, anything like that. Um, I've always said I think like initiative, attitude, and curiosity are like three of the most important things. When I started Jebbit, it was in college, and there was no like me and my co-founders didn't have a boss. Like everything we did was our own initiative. Like we woke up every day and chose to invest in the business every day, drive things forward. We had to figure out where to put our time, how to optimize our time, outside of class and seeing friends and things like that. And I think as I built out the early team, my background is not in software or business. I was a biology major. And so as I was building out the early team in those years, I was just focused on building the culture, and I had to go find people that knew engineering and knew sales and marketing and these different things. And so I had to find people that had a ton of initiative because I couldn't tell them, here's how you run a sprint and a product planning cycle, or here's how you run a marketing strategy. I had no idea. Like my logic was just, I'll build the culture, I'll find smart people, and then hopefully they'll take the initiative to figure things out. So that was my story. That's why I think initiative matters so much. I think in terms of attitude, like, it's a startup. Things are going wrong all the time. Like you have to have perspective. You have to have resilience, gratitude. Like I think all of those things that go into like having a positive attitude. And so I also really looked for people in the early days that had that, that could get out of the pain of the like all the bugs every day or this issue or that issue or we're running out of money and could see the bigger perspective of how awesome is this. We get to build a company with our friends, and yeah, we got to solve that problem in this platform and that problem, but like we're so grateful for our job. And Jebbit, like most startups, has been through all the cliche things. We've been through pivots, we've been through fundraisers, we've been through layoffs, we've been through all different things. And so there's a really awesome core team that's still been here since day one and since the early days, and I think we all share a similar attitude and resilience. And then I think the curiosity one is just so important. Like always been asking questions of like, what are we doing wrong? What should we be doing better? Where are the opportunities we're missing? We're always trying to learn from marketers. And I think, a lot of people will ask me sometimes like, how did you know in college to start a first party data platform? And I was like, I didn't. We've just asked a lot of questions and we've just pivoted over time to like find the product market fit. And I think I think if we didn't have that curiosity, if we were like stuck on the original idea and we were like, this idea is the best idea, this is what's going to scale, we probably failed or had like a really small exit years ago. But I think that curiosity has been core to our
It's
messages.
like
Now
it's
I'll just say, sorry, go ahead. What were you gonna
no,
say?
you go, please, please.
I'll just say, like, I think those are the really important qualities for early stage, probably through Series A, Series B, etc. Now that I'm in the private equity world, scaling to a different level, I think it's a lot of, I still think a lot of those things matter. I'm not saying those don't matter anymore, but there's a lot more around like operational rigor and organization and the way you communicate to, like, we're a little over 100 employees now, so like the communication's totally different. It's like there's a lot of new skills I'm learning on the job these days, but I think those are definitely my answers for the earlier stages of the company.
Right, right. So I was gonna say like you're asking a traffic controller, okay, how did you know you're gonna be a air traffic controller? You never knew, maybe, right?
Yeah,
And you were a bio major, so you wanted to be a doctor or something.
I want to be a doctor. Yep.
Nice. So do you regret though?
Oh no, I love what I'm doing. My grandpa is a doctor in a small town outside of Boston. He's 82 years old and he still practices, runs his own office. My grandma's the runs the office and he does the doctor work. And so I always wanted to be like him. And I definitely there's parts of me that still miss like the science side. Like I was really interested in the science, and obviously what we do at Jebbit has nothing to do with that. It's in the digital marketing world. But no, I love my job. It's been awesome. And I'm still like, it's the cliche thing to say as a CEO, but like it's like a different job every year as the company scales. And so, even though I've technically had one title at one company for going on 12 years now, it doesn't feel that way when you look back on it.
Right. That's the ride we love, right? That's the ride we
Oh
love.
yeah. Oh
It's
yeah.
fun. It's fun. I know what you're talking about. Right. Okay. Could you share a valuable lesson you have learned being a CEO? Time management,
Yeah, yeah. Give me some
not talking
any
to
lesson. That's like
not
a very
talking to
open-ended question.
not talking to parents as much, not catching up with friends, whatever. Like,
I would say like you have to build things into your week that are outside of the business and give you happiness and purpose and
right,
things like that. And you cannot let your own self-worth get tied up in the success of the company. Like I think, almost very few stories are just like straight up and to the right. We just like kept growing and everything was amazing and then we sold the company. Like most founding stories are tons of highs, tons of lows. Like most great founders have been through layoffs and different economies and things like that. And so I think being able to stay level headed through it all and like not get too high on the highs and not get too low on the lows is super important. And I think the foundation you build to do that is you can't let your own self-worth be so tied up in how the business is doing. And the way you do that, I think, is by having other meaning and purpose outside of life. And so like whether that's time with family or friends or significant others, which is something I obviously try to invest a lot in, or whether it's like for me, I try to play basketball at least once a week, every week. Like that's always been a big thing for me. I try to meditate every day. Like I think you just like it's an all-consuming job. You can never get through the to-do list. Like if I wanted to, I could just wake up at 5 a.m. and work the entire day and not get through it all. And I think like taking that space is super important if you're going to be doing it for.
right,
I'm shocked. I'm still doing it a decade later. If you asked me when I was in college, like how long would I be doing this? I'd be like, oh, like it's going to take 5 years and we'll sell it for billions of dollars. And then you get into it and you realize it's way harder than you think. There's many more problems. You got to pivot. You got to change things around. And so I think figuring out how to be in the right mindset where you're going to be able to do it for a decade plus and be sustainable is a really important thing.
I'd like to shift gear a very little. Tell me a little bit about private equity world, especially Vista. I study about them a lot. So tell me a little bit about them. How is private equity and VistaEquity? Just give me a glimpse.
And is your question in relation to like how's it different than the venture investors we had in the early
Yeah,
days?
kind of that, and then the company culture and what have you learned from them in a very short. Definitely, you've
Yeah.
been working with them. Yeah, give an idea.
I mean, there's the high level cliche stuff, right? Like a VC just needs like one out of every 10 companies to blow up, and private equity wants every company to 3 to 5x. And so, there's differences you see in like risk tolerance, and like obviously they're really invested in making every company successful. But that's like probably just true about any VC versus private equity. I think to talk more in depth about the
Mhm.
specific things you're asking about like Vista's culture, I think like operational excellence is like the biggest thing I've learned. I think what I've been really impressed by is like the Vista team has let us continue to like do the things that I think we're best at, like build a great culture, have a good vision of where we're going to take the product. Like they don't really get involved in those things, but where they've really gotten involved is just like us really growing up and maturing as a company. Like we brought in a CFO that they hired, we brought in a president to help more on like the operational side. And I've just learned a ton from them about like how do you actually scale and operationalize a business, right? I mean, me and my co-founders were so used to just like running around and rolling up our sleeves and doing all the work and like being involved in so many customer calls and so many sales pitches and things like that. And through them, I've really learned like how to create the right procedures and internal systems so that this thing can scale and so that I can sit back and not have to actually go join as many calls, but be able to just like look at data and gain insights from the business and work with our CFO to understand where we should invest more or less, things like that. I think that's where they are really strong. And I think that's where they're also really self aware of like those things are generally true across every SaaS company they invest in, right? Even though we're in marketing tech and they have tons of other investments in all other parts of enterprise SaaS, I think that's part of why they tend to like, let us drive things like the product roadmap and the culture and things like that
Right,
more, and where they spend their time more on the operational excellence side of things.
right. That's a very good match. Okay, so let's go back to a CEO type question again. I just
Yeah.
wanted to shift gear a little bit. That's all. Um, if you can go back in time, what would you do differently?
In the very early days, I would have been less focused on what VCs wanted to hear to raise money, and I would have been more focused on what customers actually wanted in the moment, because I learned there's a pretty big gap between the really like sexy futuristic things you can pitch a VC of what your platform's going to do versus the actual things customers need in the moment. And I learned through some pain and some bad decisions that at the end of the day, what VCs value most is strong growth, retention, those metrics. And so I think in the really early years, we built some really aspirational things that customers didn't use, and we didn't focus enough on the things customers actually needed in the moment. And it led to us being able to raise money because some of the VCs were really thought our vision was really amazing, led to us signing a lot of big brands because they also thought the pitch was really amazing. But because we didn't focus on the end user enough, our churn was really high in the early years. And so it took us a couple of years to fix that problem. And yeah, our ultimate like boss that drove what we did and what we built should have been our customers, our end users, and shouldn't have been the venture
Right,
capitalists.
right. Good answer. Right. Um, so tell me, person Tom, and not just someone who's Forbes 30 under 30. I know you're Forbes 30 under 30.
Mm-hmm.
At some point in the chat, I always wanted to remind the listeners that who
Yeah.
I'm talking to. So tell me about like your personal life. Like you're a person, not Forbes 30 under 30, or a successful CEO.
Grew up outside of Boston in a suburb. As you heard, I always wanted to be a doctor growing up. Golf was my big sport growing up. So I spent a lot of time on the golf course. And then, yeah, I went to Boston College where I obviously had the dream to go be a doctor, but decided to start a marketing tech company instead. I think some of the things I've gotten into since college, I think I mentioned meditation before and like studying a lot of Eastern religions and philosophies is something I've gotten really into, and then do a lot of like hiking and snowboarding and things like that with my girlfriend. So we actually live out in Colorado right now. My girlfriend is getting a PhD out here, and so we're trying to take as much advantage of the Colorado mountains while we're out here for that.
Awesome, awesome. So you love golf. Okay. You are the second
I don't
person
get to
I
play as
know.
much anymore,
No,
but
you are
go
the
ahead. What were
second
you going to
person
say?
I know after Donald Trump, right? So, can you bet him on, on golf though?
Fair enough.
Can you beat him on golf?
I have no idea how good he is. I'm going to
Okay.
say yes because I'm confident in myself, but I have no idea how good he is.
I'm just joking. It's a joking question. But yeah, you're the
Yeah.
second person I know who plays golf rather than Donald Trump and maybe Tiger Woods. Like I'm an immigrant living here in New York City for the last 15 years.
Yeah.
Like uh, we don't play golf, right?
Hard to golf in the middle of New York City, but yeah.
Right, right. Have you been to New York though?
Oh yeah, I go for Jebbit all the time. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. I've been to Boston for the first time last year. It's a beautiful city. It's
Great
amazing.
city.
A great city. I've been to MIT, Harvard, and Boston College. Boston College is beautiful.
Oh yeah.
Not many people know about that, but Boston College is beautiful. One of my
Oh yeah.
professors is from Boston College, so he's a math genius guy. He's younger than me, but he's math genius. So I always wanted to see where he studied, and I went there. It's a beautiful place. Yeah, I'm not gonna.
Without Boston College, Jebbit would not exist. So I'm
Really,
a
really,
big
tell me a
fan.
little bit, please.
We I went to school for bio, and there was a business plan competition on campus, and I
Oh,
entered into it and won. And then one of the alumni was an investor in the city, and he really wanted to help Boston College alumni, and he took us under his wing for the summer, and that summer changed my life. And then I decided to go work on the business all summer, and wanted to go like make that my thing. And next thing I knew, I was raising money and dropping out of school, and when it was fully in a different trajectory. So I actually work with that alumni now. Him and I run a small venture fund that invests in Boston College students and alumni who are starting companies. It's called SSC Ventures. So we've raised money from alumni, and we invest in student alumni companies. But that's been just like a fun thing that I do on the side.
very good, very good. So,
Yeah.
okay, okay, nice. So I know two-person who plays golf, and I also know two-person who went to Boston College. Nice.
There you
It's
go.
it's gonna
Yeah.
increase, right? Okay. So, any advice for entrepreneurs who wants to be a SaaS company owner, or who wants to be someone like you, or going to uh, I'd like to say
Yeah.
going through building a startup. It's like as Elon Musk said, you're looking at a beast and chewing glasses. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
give
I
them some
think this will be
advice.
a fairly cliche answer, but it's cliche for a reason. Like, don't, if you really want to just be a SaaS CEO and scale a business, don't be tied to any one idea. I think people get too caught up in, oh, I need the idea. And like, your idea is probably going to change. So it's more important to find a great team and find great founders. And like we talked about earlier, stay curious and be willing to pivot if that's what you really want. Now, some people start a company because they have one really niche problem that they're just so annoyed no one has solved, and they're like, I'm going to solve it. But I think that's different. I think that's like, okay, you're starting it to solve that problem. I was not starting Jebbit to solve any specific problem. I was starting Jebbit just to try to start a company. I thought it'd be awesome to build a team and build a culture and build a product and all the things that go along with building a company.
Am I missing any question?
No, and I'm late for a meeting I need to jump to. So this has been awesome, but we should
Awesome.
probably wrap up.
Thank you very much, Tom. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much, too.
Take care.